So that's it.
First off, Michael, who is Michael what is FIODH and Michael? Who, what?
Yeah. So, firstly, FIODH or FIOC, right? Well, it's one of those things a lot of people don't really know how to pronounce it, so we'll get cracking with that. You know, 'cause it's a Gaelic word and it's really hard to pronounce.
Yep.
So yeah, I pronounce it FIOC. FIOC. It's got a kind of sound to it, but I don't really mind if people call it FIOD as well, because it's one of those things. It's a part of the story.
Yep.
That's what I like to share. It means wood or timber in Gaelic. Yeah, it's one of those. I went with the whole like whiskey. You know how there's loads of whiskies you can't pronounce or read.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh well, let's just follow the trend.
We did have to Google it on the way here, didn't we? I was like, I'm not sure how to pronounce this.
That's it. I had the Gaelic translator out. And I was like,
And I'm sure even that's wrong. You know, it's just some American voice recording thing.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you come from a similar world of us. You've done, in fact, probably similar timeline as well. Where did you go to for product design, and when did you graduate that?
So I studied product design at Strathclyde from 2010, did my undergrad till 2014. And then there's a year between that where I started and did my master's from 2015 to 2016. So no, it's fun. Like I've always loved creating things, making things. It's just been in my DNA, I guess.
Yeah.
And even when I was younger, I just loved painting and drawing. I guess anything creative.
Yeah.
Right. I think for me, creativity is such an important aspect of my life.
Yeah.
And without that, I think it would be so boring, you know? Like, I wouldn't want to live in a world without that. You got to be creative. And I think it's so important, especially when you get older. You know, I think sometimes it's so easy to lose that creative side. Because when we're all younger, I think most people are really creative.
Yeah.
Right? Most people are drawing and are doing all these things, making things, playing with Legos and constructing, right? And then as we get older, I don't know what happens. We just kind of lose it a bit. You know?
We all just try and pay the mortgage.
Exactly. Yeah. It's I don't know. I think it's a shame. I think it's important. So you know, I think it's important just to kind of keep your creativity going. I think creativity is in so many different fields. Obviously, you could pick up your guitar and you could, you know, play music and stuff like that. It's not always like painting or building something in that sense. But yeah.
So you always knew you wanted to be creative, but did you always see yourself doing this? Or when did the idea spark for this?
Yeah. So I think my story, I've always had a personality where I wanted to do something different. Of course, after I finished my master's, I was like, right, gonna get into the jobs, gonna get some money, gonna start, you know, building my career. Of course, I've always wanted to be a designer and eventually become a well-known designer. Is something I've always aspired to. But when I graduated, I was looking for a job, I was applying for things, and I was just getting turned down and, you know, getting that whole lack of experience, which I know a lot of people have heard, you know, and it becomes really frustrating, especially, you know, when you've studied 4 to 5 or 6 or whatever years you've studied and you get turned down for that. And even at internships, you know, they turn you down for lack of experience because they just want to hire someone else that's got experience. And you're like, well, that kind of defeats the whole thing, you know. It's meant to give you experience.
Yeah, you're in this constant circle, and we hear it so many times, and I think it is what pushes ultimately a lot of people to work for themselves. They maybe never had that in their line at first. Is we want someone with experience, but everyone needs to get experience. So at what point do you start that circle? And it's just this constant perpetual circle. And it's definitely something that more often than not, people that, now don't get me wrong, there's always people that always wanted to work for themselves.
Sure.
That's always going to be the case. But more often than not, there is a lot of people that wanted to go that path the same as you, that have just been in that same circle. Where do you enter that circle? Where do you enter that roundabout? There doesn't seem to be an enter or an exit. And so many people just get put off by it.
No, 100%. So, like that's what I didn't want to get caught up in this loop where eventually you end up working in a field that you don't really want to, because, you know, you're going to have to pay the bills, you're going to have to get your life moving. And so a lot of people, I guess, will drop away from maybe what they wanted to do, what they studied. And I didn't want to fall into that. You know, I was so determined to be like, you know what, I want to be a product designer. I want to design and create and make things. And
I wouldn't say there's a lot of jobs out there for product designers. Like, that's what we were told at uni, really.
No, I I'm pretty dead set on this. I think product design as a course, if you look at it in its entirety, is nigh on useless because there's so little jobs. But if you take all of the aspects that you learn within product design, it's the most useful
anywhere.
course I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because, like, so for example, I do more engineering, mechanical engineering and stuff now, and I hire engineers like from all over the country, and not masses of them. Like, I'm not making it out as if it's some like multi-billion-dollar company. It's not. It's a very small cottage industry company, but I don't employ engineers because none of them know how to critically design, think, or solve problems. They know how to do the maths really good, but the product design course, and everyone I've ever spoke to that's done product design seems to know how to solve the problem. You know, if you've got an engineer to come in and do one of your watches or clocks, like they wouldn't know how to put the emotion into it, how to solve the initial problem and sort of exacerbate the problem in every part of the problem. They wouldn't even know where to start exploring for the problems. And that's where I think the product design thing really, really helps. A lot of the makers we speak to come from a product or industrial design background, don't they?
Right.
And although they're doing what could maybe be more a craft, it's definitely from a product design background. I mean, we spoke to Bantam Frameworks just the other week there, and you walk into their workshop and it's a very engineer looking workshop. You know, all the machinery's all there to do a very specific job. They're very good at, like, this is that job, and I think they're fantastic in everything they do, but they're also still product design background, which they wouldn't have had if they'd done a more heritage crafts course or a more art driven course. You know, I think that's one thing that definitely pops up more often than not.
Yeah.
So you done it at
Strathclyde.
Strathclyde.
Strathclyde, aye.
And how did you find that?
I think with Strathclyde, it's more also science and engineering based. Right. So yeah, you do a lot more of the kind of technical side of things. There is a few different kind of courses you could take. So I did product design and innovation is what I studied.
Okay.
While there's obviously product design and engineering, and then there's other sports product design and stuff like that as well. So I kind of went more into the innovation side of things. And I guess you could technically, everyone used to laugh about it and say it's all just drawing and it's all being arty and stuff like that. And then you've got the engineering side where it's all calculations and numbers and everyone's getting so excited about that. But yeah, I loved my course. I loved being a product designer, innovator, you know, because innovation for me has always been quite important, you know, being key to, and I think that kind of comes also again to what I'm doing now. You know, it's not like I make watches, but I don't just make any type of watch. I make watches that are, you know, crafted from whiskey barrels, which again, it's very unique and different. And I think any field that you go into, you know, generally, you know, it's important to be innovative as well, to stand out, and, you know, and it makes things so much easier, especially if you're starting a business or craft where, you know, there's so many others that are doing it. You want to stand out, so do it.
It's interesting you say that makes things so much easier, because I think it's inherently hard to be. I think if you've not got it, it's inherently hard to be totally original, because let's be honest, everything's been done at some point by someone. But if you don't try and be original, like, yes, getting the initial part of the product done will be easier, but it'll be so difficult to make that a business because it's not original. Whereas obviously yourself, and we'll talk about this in a minute, like, you pour so much more emotion and history. And there's a cracking line on your website, actually, which I think sums it up perfectly. I'm going to butcher this.
Go for it.
Every watch has time, but not history. Have I butchered it?
Right, it's very close. You are so close on it. So all watches have time, ours have history.
That's
is basically the motto. So it's. I think that's, again, as you say, it's the difference. It's the differentiation between others. It's that putting emotions, putting history, putting something that, you know, it's a product that already has a story to it. You know, and I love that. And I think especially nowadays, you know, sustainability, environment's so important, and we upcycle things from certain things. But cool thing about using whiskey casks or barrels is that it already holds that story within it, and then to convert and turn that into something else. I think, just, again, it shows the power of upcycling and turning something that used to have that story. And that's how I love it. But yeah, it's going back to the whole point of, like, why I started, which I think is also quite crucial and important to a lot of people's, you know, who do want to probably pursue their career or, go into what they've been studying. As we spoke about, you can get stuck into that loop, right? So how do you get out of that loop? What do you do to get yourself out of that? And of course, I was nearly stuck in that loop, but my frustration, I guess, is what got me to go, screw it, I applied for an internship in Sweden, and it was kind of the last strike, I would say, and at that point I was already kind of tinkering, making watches or thinking about it. And I applied. It was for a really cool company in Sweden, and they make like cool clocks as well, but they're kind of more electronic digital, so the hands move and then it turns into numbers and they're all lined up, and it's beautiful stuff. So I applied. I got to the last three, and then they said, "Oh yeah, the other two had more experience than you," and it was an internship again. I was just like, all right, that's it. That's it. I've had it enough. I'm doing it myself. If no one's going to give me that experience, I'll give it to myself. Is basically what I told myself. I was like, you know what? I'll do it. I don't know how, but I'll figure that out. And I think again that comes to there's different personality traits, right? And I think that's one thing that does help for me anyway. Is that I'm not necessarily afraid of doing something that might seem difficult or challenging. I quite thrive in that. I get excited when something's difficult, because I would say the thing that's most difficult is the thing that you will learn the most in. If you just do things that's easy, you'll never really gain as much.
Yep.
If you're gonna go for something, and do it 100%, even if that seems challenging, then you'll gain so much. Even if you don't get to the very end, on that journey, you'll pick up so much.
Yeah. So much transferable skill. And is that something you've always found yourself doing, even pre-design? Have you always been attracted to the difficult side of things and attracted to the process more than the outcome?
Yeah, I would say so. So there's a bunch of stories before I even started, right? So basically, I studied product design. My masters, I studied product design, and again, because my dad unfortunately passed away with cancer that year, and that's why there was a bit of a gap between when I did my undergrad to my masters. And my dad's an engineer. He was a draftsman, and so I get a lot of that side from him.
Yep.
Also, he loved watches as well, so a lot of that also comes from him as well. My passion to do that. But yeah. So like overcoming difficult things, I remember that was one thing. Again, it was a big test of my character, my personality. That was like one of the hardest, toughest things I've ever went through. Seeing my dad go through that, and it was only a space when we got told, and 4 months later he passed away. So it was really, really quick. And so yeah, it was during that time, like towards the end before he passed. I was also into boxing. Boxing was something when I was younger. It was I was really into. And there was this ultra white collar boxing match that came up on the Facebook thing, and I was like, oh, must be a sign, to take this on, raise money for cancer research, because at that moment when someone's going through like so much difficulties, you don't really know how to support them, right? You don't know what to do. So, in a way, it was like you just do anything to kind of at least show them that you care about them still, and that's kind of how you help. So for me, like taking part in this was to show my dad, I was like, I'm gonna take this on.
For anyone that's listening, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ultra White Collar, it's the charity, isn't it? It's for non-professional boxers with limited or no experience, X amount of training time, hopping a ring with someone else, and it's all about charitable, bringing as much money into it as possible for your chosen charity. That's
yes,
it, isn't it?
So it was all for cancer research. So that everyone would set up a page, and it would be support for cancer research.
Right.
But yeah, generally it could be any charity. But the one I did, it was for cancer research, and that's kind of what drew me to that, because I was like, I want to raise money for that. So that was like one of the last few things, I was doing. So I did that. I took that on. It was an 8-week kind of training course. And having experience from when I was younger, I dropped out when I was younger. Yep. When I was like 13, I was like, I want to be a professional boxer. That was the only thing I knew I wanted to do and stuff like that. And I dropped that because I pursued my career and my studies and stuff like that. And I thought, maybe one day I'll take that on again or something like that. Yeah. And also ironically, my parents weren't really, into boxing, because obviously it could cause you a lot of health issues as well. And So yeah, but at that moment, like, because it meant so much to me when I was younger, and the opportunity kind of came up. I thought, right, I want to raise money from. I want to do that, and I think it was like 6 weeks during the training. He passed away, so at that moment, it was that whole part of picking myself up again and going, right, I'm still gonna fight, because that's the last thing you wanted to do, and it was the craziest experience I could ever I've never felt it so much going into the ring. You know, my mum was there, my sister's there, your family's there. You know, you've got your ring walk music. 'Cause my dad's from Newcastle, and so I had the Newcastle tune on going into the ring, and you know, you've just got your opponent in front of you, you've got all this heavy emotion just on you until you know, and just you know, I think I mean, when I won, it was just that feeling of just letting everything go. Yeah. You know, and knowing that, you know, that was a really important moment for me. But for me, that showed a lot of the kind of the character, the perseverance, the determination to just put focus in one thing. Yeah. And go for it. You know, something that you really care about in that moment. It's really important. And I think, so connecting that with also my business, what I'm doing now and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that relates and connects to that, you know. And then, I did my master's, because that was one of the last things he said when he was in hospital. It was just like, you know, I want you to do your master's. So I was like, right, I'm going to do my master's. Do your master's. Get that done, you know, and we'll figure things out from there. Good
story.
So was it so obviously the hard work and the journey seems very much, even though your father's not here now, it's very much motivated by him, and that's kind of pushed you to drive through. Mm-hmm. And do you think it was his love in timepieces that caused you to go towards timepieces, or is it more that you've just always been brought up and you've got an innate love for them yourself?
Yeah, so I would say there's two sides. I think there's one side that I'm doing it for my dad as well, because I've got that kind of background with that connection to that. Another side, I do love watches as well, because I see them as a kind of a unique thing, a product which combines the kind of artistic world and the kind of more technical world, you know, where it's got so much going on within it, you know, but then it's that simplicity, that cover that's around it that just shows you the time, you know. The more I've went through this process of like working with time, it's got me thinking a lot about how precious, how important time is. And I know that's such a cliche thing, and I know it's something that we always think of, like, oh yeah, you know, life is so short, you know. But the more I do it, the more I'm like, I love and hate time. Like, it takes me ages sometimes to just make something, and I get frustrated over certain things of that. And then same thing, there's so much beauty in that as well, because time is what makes something so precious, you know. Yep. If things were just rattled up and made really quickly, you know, it's not the same. No, you don't, you know. But when you can really focus and you know that you've spent whatever amount of time doing it, and you've put so much energy, effort into this one piece, it just means so much more, I would reckon. So that, I guess that's the difference between things that are mass produced, right? We live in a world where things are, you know, constantly just turned around and people just buy it. It becomes so much cheaper because the way it's made, and it becomes so much faster, you know, and of course it's nice that everyone can have certain things, right?
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
But at the same time, we've lost a lot of that touch when people used to carve out things from wood, and it used to take so much time, and then people would love it and cherish it, and they would look after it, they'll care about it more, you know, because they didn't think if they just broke it, they'll just go in the shop and buy a new one.
This is it. There seems to be almost maybe it is conscious, maybe it's subconscious, maybe it's different for different people, but I think when you're holding something that you know is taking, you know, 400 hours to make, you're not going to discard it. Like there's something in it that you're going to take better care of it. Whereas if it's something that 400 of them are popping out every 20 minutes off a production line, it's like, man, how many things have you ordered off Amazon for sub £10, lost them, and been like, I'm just going to go and order it again. I'm just going to order it again instead of spending 5 hours of my life trying to find it, because it'll be here tomorrow. Whereas if you go and lose, you know, one of your watches or like a set of glasses frames for Banton, like emotionally that is it's a really hard thing. And you are going to spend the time looking after it. I think maybe we are more aware of it because of what we do now within We Are Makers, but the world just kind of turning over at that a bit more now. I think COVID, certainly the cost of living crisis, like, it's just another crisis, let's be honest. Like, it's just another crisis that seems to be happening today.
Sure.
But people seem to be more aware of, like, spend money in the right place, keep it for a long time. You know, and it kind of seems to hark back to, like, a lot of people that are listening to this, their grandparents or their great-grandparents would have had that outlook. And I think for a long time we kind of lost that, didn't we?
Did, yeah.
Whereas now seeing people like yourself and craftsmen popping up, they've got their place in the market again. And I think it's a growing place. So I think what you're doing with this, and it's what all the makers are doing, it definitely seems to be a growing market. Like, whether it's a growing market or regenerating market, how have you found customers' response to timepieces? You know, is there any stories of I've had the £6 Casio or the £12 Casio for X years, but this is exponentially better? Because do people, are your customers noticing and feeling that difference in it? Do you notice that?
Yeah, no, 100%. You know, I get messages from, like, a lot of times it's maybe like 60th birthdays or it's anniversaries and stuff like that. Kind of really important occasions and moments where they want a product which kind of, I guess, is more thoughtful and means something more. You know, especially my product's made out of wood. You know, and a fifth anniversary, wedding anniversary. It's wood is the theme, right?
Oh, is it? Is that right?
Yeah. So it's kind of also something that people buy as well for then. You know, going with the theme. But yeah, I think people will see the kind of the difference in the details and the craftsmanship, and I guess it's very rare these days to know someone that makes like what I'm doing right now. I don't really know anyone who's really doing what I'm doing, especially a one-person watchmaking business. It's just not really around.
Yeah.
And
I think the closest I know would be. I'm absolutely terrible at remembering names. Something's happened in the past 3 or 4 months. I just can't remember anyone's names. Birmingham, Rebecca and Struthers Watches.
Right.
Like, that's the closest I know, the two of them. And they started restoring watches and now make their own brand. And other than that, that's yourself and them. They're the only ones in the UK I know. I think so.
I guess there's probably a lot of different degrees of what you can say what watchmaking is, right? Because you can go to the very deep end where you're making the mechanical, the movements, right? Where it's like really intricate stuff, and that you need to study a long time, and you need to study somewhere very well to do that. And then then there's all the other components, and then you can get people that just make the straps or make other certain components or maybe just design stuff and then get someone else. So they're designed in the UK or in Glasgow or wherever, and then it's made somewhere else. And so there's loads of different degrees of what you can say as a watchmaker. What is it? Who are you? What makes you? I mean, personally, if I was to say if you were a true watchmaker, you would be someone that's probably making all the components from Switzerland, but. That's a different grade of watchmaking.
It's a whole different grade.
That's a total different grade.
Horology, is it horology?
Yeah.
Horology, yeah. That's like, you need to find someone who's been doing it all their life, that's going to teach you all your life, and then you might get a couple of good watches out the end of it. It's wild. So you mentioned something there, the people that design it here, because that's something that we've certainly noticed, and we've spoke to a few people, sort of white labeling products.
Sure.
People will design it here, or they'll buy in something off a catalogue. You see quite a lot in the bike industry on sort of lower market bikes. And then put it out there, and they've got a wicked good marketing team behind them, and they'll market that as like handmade. Or how do you set yourself apart from that?
So I think that's the thing. There is certain components that I do have to buy in for my watches as well, because so it's not fully all constructed and made here. I mean, eventually, of course, I think anyone would love to in a way, but I guess when you become when you get into this industry, as much as also we love the fact that we talk about how you want something that takes time to make, and then you've got a love and feel for that. We also understand that the longer it takes, the more expensive things are going to be, right? And so you have to take that into consideration, because as much as I would love to spend a whole ages making this one beautiful watch and pricing it ridiculously high, and then selling that, and that's all good. I just know that it's very difficult to do that, And so you like a lot of times as a pro designer as well, I have to think about the production system. I have to think about like how things how long it takes to make something, you know, how efficient I can be at doing something, you know, and without going, I'm, you know, just, you know, taking shortcuts and going, right, I'm just going to try to do things quicker and stuff like that. Because again, you know, you want to do things well, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to just take shortcuts. So it's getting that right balance between, you know, how long something takes, but still doing it well and knowing theoretically how long it takes, you know. I think a lot of people don't know how like long it takes just to prepare the bit of wood, just so I can get it into the CNC machine, so I can kind of cut out the body.
Yeah.
And just to get to that process where I've got that piece to work on, takes so long.
Tell us about it.
Oh yeah. So how it works is I would get like the staves, right, which is the parts of the long strips of the barrel. I like to call it cask because cask is it means a range of different barrels. There's different like barrels, and then there's hogs. There's different types.
Yeah.
Right. So a cask would mean any of them. Right. So I usually say they're made
Ah,
from
okay.
casks.
So the cask is the family effectively.
Yeah, exactly.
A barrel is a type of
Yeah,
cask.
yeah.
I thought it was the other way around. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that's the thing. There's a lot of the like people will generally hear barrel, and
Yeah.
So I sometimes say it's made from barrels because people know that and understand that better than go, it's made from a cask, and they're like, oh, right. So what I do is I get the parts, the bit of wood, and I have to like cut them into basically quarters, right? So because they're curved. Right, you're working something with that's already curved, and so I need to make it into like a workable piece. I'll then cut it and slice it. I'll put it through a planer, which is this one here, and then I would flatten it. I would then cut it into different width as well, so it'll be different strips, and then I would plane it again. I would then, because it's got a lot of moisture content in it, and wood and moisture is not a good combination, right? Especially we love the whiskey that's already inside it, but still, it's not a great combination when you're working with something. So, so then I have to dry it in the oven over there. So I dry it and I weigh it, and then I dry it again. I weigh it because that's the only way you really know if the moisture's removed, because you need to weigh it.
So have you got you've got a target weight that this volumetric should be?
So I basically what I do is I weigh it at the very start before I put it in the oven to start to remove the moisture, and I note that down. I put it in, I note it down, and when it stops changing is when you know that's it.
Right. Okay.
So that's the only time. That's the only when you know. So there isn't a certain number. It's just until it stops changing, and then at that point, what I do is I put it in a vacuum chamber with cactus resin. The reason why I do that is because I want to solidify the wood so I can preserve it a lot more. It strengthens the wood. It's a really interesting process. So basically what it does is that when you put it into the vacuum machine, you put cactus resin and you put the block of wood inside it, it will take out the air from the wood, and basically once the air bubbles are gone, which the whole process can take up to 4 to 5 hours or so. It depends on the thickness of the wood, obviously.
Yeah.
And then once the bubbling stops, the air is all being removed. You then basically open up the chamber, it releases the air. It's just the cactus then sucks into the pores of the wood and replaces the gaps and the holes in the wood. And then once it's sucked inside, you then have to heat cure it. So I put it in the oven to heat it up, and then it cooks it, and it just basically solidifies it. And now you've got this solid piece of wood that's preserved, that's going to last longer. It's not going to...
So it's actually impregnated with a... right, exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So, the reason it's easy to work with, it's cleaner cuts, but also it makes it last a lot longer, and that's really important, because you're wearing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So rather than you just doing a typical finish, i.e. a varnish, a surface finish, you've actually done your preserving
everyone,
Preserve, that's it. From the inside out, haven't you?
Yeah,
right,
sure.
Okay. So, and this has all happened before. This is making raw material at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're days into making raw material.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's exactly. So I try to do a bunch of them, obviously same time, so I've got them all ready and stuff like that. Now then after I take it out, I make sure again it's nice and flat, so I put it through the planer, and then I cut it into little blocks, and these squares are now ready to get put into the CNC machine behind me.
Right.
It's a cute little CNC machine.
It is a cute one. Yeah. So yeah, I first actually started off with this one here, which I've got the X-Carve there. That's great for doing the clocks that I make.
Yeah.
But when you're coming into more intricate stuff, when things have to be very like detailed, the gap in between, you know, the wood and the hands and stuff like the movement, it's like, I think it's like a 0.5 millimeters in thickness, and it has to be very thin.
You need the accuracy. At
Need
that
the
point,
accuracy.
yeah.
So so that's why like I need to do in a smaller CNC to get that.
Right.
Sorry.
No, you go.
No, I was saying originally I was trying to do everything on the bigger CNC machine there, but it just wasn't doing the accuracy that I wanted to, and you know, I didn't have the money to invest into something that would do that better for me.
Yeah.
So it was just
Working with what you had.
Yeah, it was working with what I had, and it was
So you have
just
to do-
general progress.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So how many blocks and faces are you doing at a time? You know, we talked about you make a bunch of blocks and then they go to the CNC. Are you just cutting one face one time, or have you got capacity to cut 2 or 3? Or
So basically, I work on one at a time with that one. What I need to do is I need to flip it. It's got a flip jig on it because I need to do the inside and the back, both sides. And so I get that running, and once that's running, you know, it's I can do other things as well, right? Which is really helpful. And I just kind of finish that. It stops after so there's 3 different processes. So it's the first bit which cuts the top part, and then I flip it. I need to do the inside, and it cuts it, and then I need to change the bit so that it goes and cuts in little detailed holes for the screws and all these other little
So
bits.
accurate. It has to be so accurate, hey?
so you're not cutting a ring and placing a face in. You're cutting down, flipping.
Yeah.
So you've basically got a counterboard top, counterboard bottom. So your face is part of the outside as well. So that's never going to move, is it? That's a very stable.
It's one
lump.
piece, and I guess the reason for my design of that, because I know typically that's not the way that watches are made.
That's exactly why I was asking.
You know,
why is it we're going that way?
So one thing is when I've always loved the philosophy of simplicity as well, like creating a product which minimizes parts, minimizes operation, and also the only way that I could get the way the watch is looking now to have the grains of the wood looking the way it is, where it's one whole piece, to make it like that beautiful seamless kind of piece, is to do it that way. I could never be able to do it
because you
that
couldn't
way.
match the grains.
No, I can match the grains, and I also to make these pieces, these little slices, it's just
It makes so much sense though, doesn't it? Because not only are you making a better product, a more not tactile, but a more robust product, you're getting your grain structure the way you want. You've actually got no waste, because if you were just going to rip that out into the body, typically you would just rip the whole body out, and then you're just left with the ring, and then you're going to have to make another slip, which is the face.
Well, 100%, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
So so it's just I guess the way that I originally designed it and wanted to work with it. Now there's always different variations in the future that I would like to, but I would like to keep the core of it where the wood is the kind of centerpiece. I love it being the face. It sounds weird, but I love the grains in the wood so much. It's just every single bit that I make comes out so unique. You will never get one piece exactly the same, and also the color variations changes depending on the how much the whiskey's soaked into the wood as well. So sometimes it darkens it, depending on whether it had a sherry was a sherry cask or something like that. So it's variations of different colors, and it just changes. Sometimes it's really dark, sometimes it's quite light,
And does your customer know that, where the barrels come from, or?
So typically, a lot of the casks are bourbon. Bourbon casks are probably one of the most kind of popular ones. There is variations of different types of casks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I get my cask from Speyside Cooperage, so all the way up north. And one thing going forward that I really want to do even further on is get the breakdown of exactly every single history of exactly where it's been from the wood, the story of it all, and I would find that fascinating, amazing to have it there.
I think customers would too. Certainly, real whiskey nuts would be like, I want this one because that's my favourite whiskey from my favourite cask here. From
totally.
That would be wicked, but I can imagine it's a lot.
I don't mind the work. It's just more. It's when it comes to identify or putting it's from this barrel, it becomes very tricky. Because I know a lot of the distilleries that they're very you know, obviously they want to hold on to their heritage. They don't want you using their name to start selling products, right? Because so they're very like, you have to be very careful when you get into that. And there's a lot of people that don't really care about that, so they'll just do it anyway, and make stuff out of it and go, this is from this barrel. But I've been very kind of careful of that because I want to keep good connections with a lot of distilleries as well.
Yeah, of course.
And that's why I've done a lot of collaborations with distilleries, you know, and try to do it that way. So recently I worked with Glenfiddich, which is fantastic. So that allowed me to make stuff. They sent me over the casks, and then I would make stuff using theirs, and then they'll have it in they've got it in their gift shop now.
Nice.
And so I could go do it around that way. There is maybe potentially other ways I could do things, which I thought might go around that, where I don't sell it saying this is from this. It's a surprise kind of thing, right? So people will open it, right, and then they'll got the because I think
quite like that.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that.
Because I think in the end, like I'm not doing it to use a name to sell stuff. What for me is most important is that when people hold on to this piece, that they should, or they, you know, it's nicer to know exactly the story behind it, because this whole brand, it's all about heritage and story. It's what it is. Yeah. That's really important for me. And so I've been trying to look into ways to do that, but I need to have more discussions with Speyside Cooperage if they can, because they'll have the information. It's just whether
they're willing to disclose it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we aggressively segued off there. I love going wildly off topic because it's stuff you would just never find out.
Sure.
So we finished the CNC in.
Yeah.
You're a good few hours in that, presumably. And then where are we after that?
So once it's CNC'd, I've got all my bandsaws and stuff like that, so I can start cutting out all the tabs that's on the sides, you know, that's holding it together in the piece. And then I'll need to like hand sand it and clean that off and make it clean. And then what I do, because my CNC isn't like a fourth axis or fifth axis, you know, CNC, so it can't drill the hole for the stem to go into. So then I've got a jig and stuff that I made over there where basically I place it inside and I drill the hole through it. And that have to be that's probably one of the most stressful parts, is because if the drill or the bit is slightly off and you drill it down, it will just go and just ruin the whole piece. And remember, we've taken so long just to get to that point. So you can imagine just doing that and you're like, oh, okay. All right, and you know, of course, I don't want to waste things, so it's a bit annoying when that happens. So I have to be very careful, and got, you know, a lot better at it. And you just got to be patient. So what I've done a lot is made a small pre-hole using another piece, so that it kind of lines up a little bit better as well, to make sure. Because we're talking very small tolerances here that you're working with. Like if you make a slight mistake, then that's it. And so then from that point, then when I drill the holes, I always go through the process of making sure everything fits and stuff like that. You know, the movement goes in the back, the stem goes into there. So you've got a little pendant tube that goes and slots in as well to the part of the crown, and that kind of seals it, makes it a bit more like water resistant as well. Okay. So that goes in there. And then then I start cleaning it off. So I start like putting Danish oil on it, just to kind of seal it and just make it look nicer as well. So there's a lot of sanding process at that point, and once I just leave that to kind of set and dry, and then I apply the basically the indices, what it looks like in there, right? They're nickel adhesives.
Okay.
And so I've created like a jig where basically, because I need to align them perfectly every single time, right? And so I've created this jig basically that you've got the nickel parts where you kind of peel and you stick it in, because nickel's magnetic. Right? Okay. I've created this jig that basically it's got the face on it, and it's got like a press stamp that basically I can align it with little bits of magnets that I've created to put on it, and then I put the watch face on it and I'll press it down to make sure it aligns perfectly well. And so I do that process, and then that's basically the watch kind of part there, the main body that's done. Yeah. And then I then, you know, I get basically the back case, which is stainless steel. That I don't touch because I don't really work with metal. Yeah. It is something that I'm kind of gonna look more into. That's why I've bought a 3D printer recently, an SLA one, because you can do wax casting with that. Yeah. Nice. but so that's kind of more down the line. I think that'll be cool because I would love to create more intricate things, and again, start trying to get things made more in house as well. And I think that'll be interesting.
I think that's the journey, is just trying to get one bit sorted that you're happy with, and then moving on to the next.
Yeah, so many people do the same, don't they? They're like, I can do this bit in house now, so I'm going to do this bit in house now. Meanwhile, R&D, I think everyone wants to bring it all in house.
Oh yeah,
it's just
totally.
the feasibility, isn't it? There's a huge feasibility to that is very, very difficult.
So I think that's why I think it's good to have like these watches, which I know how to make. You know, I've got the whole system, everything's running. But then, you know, to keep my creative, you know, like urges, right? Because like I've become a robot sometimes where I am just doing the same process over and over again. You know, I've made hundreds and hundreds of the same watch, which I love. But again, you know, as someone creative, I want to design, I want to create, I want to make, I want to, you know, and so being able to do other things like casting and stuff like that allows me to make smaller batches of certain things, right?
Yeah.
And that's cool because then you've got a streamline of that watch that you've done. You've got selling and you've got things rolling, and you can bring out things that are even more limited batches, you know. And I think that's kind of maybe the way that I would like to go.
Nice. So at that point, we've got the actual movement itself as a bottom movement that you're then putting in, and but you're still doing all your straps and stuff in house, aren't you?
So I do make the straps. Originally, I was hand cutting all the straps. That, like everything again, took a long time. I've got a laser cutter now, so that does allow me to kind of cut things a lot quicker and accurately as well. And then so those parts are cut out, and then you know I glued inside. I sandwich it together, and then burnish the sides and stuff like that. I still need to do, and then I hand stitch the kind of parts together.
You showed me when you came in the door your stages of your first one, and you know
Yeah.
that's exciting to see. Like, how do you feel you've come from that first one?
It's such a long way. You know, I mean, it's interesting because even though, you know, so, you know, you study product design and stuff like that, but then really getting into a product and understand how it's made, you know, there's still so much more to learn because you can learn, I think, as you said, as like the good thing about product design is that you learn the process.
Yeah.
You learn how to go about making something, but you still need to learn how it's made, right?
Yeah, how to do the making.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's one side of it where it's firstly where you start designing, like in sketching. Then there's the next side of it, which is the production side of things, right? So how is this made? Like what machines do you need to make this? Yeah. And so then you need to learn the machines, and then, you know, it's like, so there's a lot of things for it. Obviously, like when I started, I was like sketching, sketching the ideas. I bought a watch, I took it apart, looked into all the components and was like, right, what do I do? Like, how do I redesign it? How do I make it different? Because I don't want to just copy this thing. No, I want to make it different. I want to make it mine. Yeah. And the whole even idea of like the strap that looks like it goes all the way through it. It's just, again, it's that one seamless thing. Yeah. It's just sticking true to that kind of idea of it. And then, you know, then you go into your CAD software, you start designing it on the CAD, start doing that. And then next it's like, okay, now I need to make prototypes. I made hundreds of prototypes. Yeah.
Which, by the way, is usually the point that you stop when you're doing your degree. Like once you've got the prototypes, that's where you stop. Yeah, yeah. And then after that, that's all just you learning.
Yeah, isn't it? 100%. Yeah, yeah. Because like even the machines that like I'm using now, like you don't really get taught that, or at least there's an operator. Like
there's
you
a
have
technician. I want to make that.
Exactly. You give them your file, and then it's like, there it is, magic.
Come back tomorrow.
Exactly. You know, and then so it's one other thing is learning how to do it, like operating CAM softwares and stuff like that, learning how to use all the parts and the details of switching it and move. The orientation of the software so it knows what's in. There's a lot of things to take on board, but yeah, again, it's all exciting and fun, you know. I always think if you don't know something, you know, there's obviously a side of you that could be afraid of going, I don't know, it's scary, but it's also exciting. Yeah,
but it's amazing fun. What you can do with this thing.
It's amazing, right? Yeah. It's like, because once you learn something, then, you know, think about how many other things your brain can now comprehend. Yeah, you can start thinking and imagining so much more. And when you talk about creativity, like that's why I love sometimes like these new machines that come out, because then your brain just explodes so many other areas, and you're like, oh my god, I can do that. I can do this now, you know. And it's just it blows your mind.
I love it.
That's exactly it, isn't it? And it's you talk like if someone said to me right now, like if you handed me your watch and like reverse engineer that is an insurmountable task. It's just a massive task. But actually, it's like we talked about earlier, with the product design giving you that how to break the problems down. But if you break the problems down, actually they're quite an easy thing. It's just loads of little problems. You just need to have the tenacity and the passion in what you're doing to break, because it's a bloody long list.
Sure.
You know, so you need to really enjoy what you're doing to break that list down. So what does it look like as it stands just now? What does the product range look like as it stands just now, and where do you see that going? We've talked very briefly about, you know, the stories within and some of the stuff, but what does it look like at the moment?
So yeah, at the moment I've got what I call the whiskey watch, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of what I title it. And so whatever product I make, I usually call it the whiskey something, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the whiskey clock. I do want to create other products as well, so I could call it the whiskey something else, right? It would be really cool. But yeah, so it's more, I guess, in terms of also identifying myself and what is my company, you know, like, because it could go vary in so many different ways.
Yeah.
I could really just branch out into like loads of heritage products, again, staying with maybe the whiskey side of things and reclaimed whiskey barrels and stuff. Or I could go, right, I want to like go straight into the watch industry and start trying to tackle that industry itself and improve in that sector. And as I say, there's so many variations to that. And whether it's just maybe focusing in the whiskey gifting industry, right? That's also another thing. It's quite a big thing, you know. So targeting more collaborations with distilleries. I think what I've done, I've kind of put my finger in like so many different sectors and different parts of the business. So with B2B, you know, or B2C, you know, and again, it's all on my own. I do everything.
Yep.
And it can just sometimes be so much work, right?
Yeah.
And
you're not just doing the making, you're doing everything.
I'm doing everything. I've got an accountant, which is good. So
well, that does help.
honestly, I'll be lying on the floor if I didn't have the gun. I'll be like, no, I can't. Just crying. So yeah, I've got that. But I know there's so many other areas, you know, and even sometimes, you know, thinking about marketing and stuff like that as well, like social media and going, oh yeah, I've got to capture all the content, all this stuff, and outreaching, looking for new collaborations, because I do love collaborations as well. I think if anyone who's ever starting off a business and they're small, they, you know, always just try to grab onto like as much as you can around you.
Is that something you find worked very well for you in the past?
I think I've always wanted to collaborate. Especially as a small business, like, you know, the fact that I've worked with such huge industries like these big distilleries, you know, it's just mind blowing. Like it's still, it's amazing from where I began. You know, some guy just left uni, didn't really know how to make a watch and stuff like that, and just had my background. But it's just amazing just now knowing that I worked with this like huge multi-million companies, you know.
And on that, like, I'm interested to know how you got in touch. Like, how do you reach out to people? Because I know that's quite hard for some people. They don't even know where to start. Yeah, no,
100%. So I've done so many different ways to do it. I would probably say the more traditional way is just maybe calling up and just going there and be like, hey, I've got this product, right? I went to Isla last year, and I just had my watch and my clock, and I just went to all the distilleries, and I was just like, this is my product. You know,
traditional salesman.
Exactly. You know, face to face, like just be there, because like on the phone it sounds nice. Oh yeah, that sounds like an interesting idea, but they want to see it. They want to see the product. They want to feel it exactly. They want to know exactly what it is. So I did that, and then I got a gig with Jura Distillery, which is fantastic.
Nice.
Spoke to the guy there, and so that's one way I could just go around and keep doing that. Another way is through trade shows, and that's the last gig from Glenfiddich was through a trade show, which was great.
That was through a trade show?
That was through a trade show.
Okay.
What one was that?
We should get into trade shows. We'll let you finish, but we should get into trade shows. It's always an interesting conversation.
Yeah, trade shows are, you know, it's one of those mystery boxes, right? I think, of course, you know, I think it's normal to be a bit worried about, because it can be expensive, and, you know, it can be a hit or miss, and you just never know, right? But then, if you never know, then sometimes you just might as well go for it.
Yeah.
So that was it was the start of this year. That was my second ever trade show when I did that one.
Right.
I've done 3 now. Did
ones?
one recently in London, in Top Drawer.
Yeah.
which is all right. Which is maybe again, it was the Queen passed away and stuff. There was a lot of things affecting during that time. I don't know. I could make excuses, but it just didn't seem as busy as I thought it would be.
Right.
Especially when I thought in my head, I'm like, London. My God, you can't move. You know, it's just constant nonstop. So it didn't feel like that. So maybe I was a bit like But again, it also sometimes the trade shows towards the end of the year isn't as big as the ones at the start of the year, and this is the same also even in Scotland.
Okay.
So if you're ever looking for trade shows and you're looking for which time of the year is best, start of the year, January, February, those are the best times, because that's when companies generally look to already foresee and think about Christmas and stuff like that, or the year. So that's always been the busiest time. That's always been the best for me anyway. Trade shows it's good. That one there in January, I did the Scottish Trade Fair in SCCC. It was great.
I've been there once. It's amazing.
It's fantastic. The creative people in there is amazing as well. There's so many opportunities. So even if you don't have a stand there, I would always say just go there yourself and just kind of engage what's happening, because the creative industry is amazing. You see so many talented people. I was like amazing. I was so lucky to win. They usually do a competition there, so I won best product at the launch gallery.
Nice.
And that was great, because then you also get a membership for the Giftware Association as well, so you get to be a member of that. And then there's all these other perks. I know it's always nice to win an award as well.
Of course, yes.
And how do these membership things help you? There's like, for example, in the engineering industry, I'm obviously a member of the IED, and we've got all these sort of trade associations and stuff. How does that help you as an independent creative? Because it's not something that independent creatives or independent businesses talk a lot about. It's being part of.
I think it goes with everything, really. It's like depends how much you want to gain from it, is what I would say. You'll gain so much from it if you really want to get involved. If you go to all their meeting associations, things are happening, like constantly go in contact and be like, right, what things can you support me with? So it depends on the kind of support that you feel like you need or you want, because then you can be more specific and ask them, and they can then direct you to other people or contacts, And I think in the end, it's a lot of it is networking, right? And I think networking is always essential and important for any business.
Agreed.
More people more opportunities you're going to have. Yeah. Right. I think that's one thing about being a part of these associations is being able to network, talk to these people, build good connections, because they will know someone else. Either know someone else, know someone that, there's links everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's just about being able to get a hold of that person first, and then that will take you on this amazing trail.
Yeah, is there not that? I think it's three connections.
Right.
Is it 3 connections or 4 connections? Again, going to butcher this. But I'm sure that you're only ever 3 or 4 connections away from anyone in the world. I'm sure that's something I read somewhere.
Yeah.
Someone
something
can
like
jump in a comment somewhere and tell me I'm talking rubbish. But
I'm
sure there's like 3, like you'll know someone who knows someone who knows. It can be really intangible, but that conversation could get you anywhere. Is the whole point in it.
Like if you've ever just went on if you ever seen on Facebook someone that you don't really know, there is some kind of mutual friend somewhere within even their friend group, right? Yeah. It's amazing if you already have that from some random person. Then just think there is just the connections are just already there.
Yeah.
So it is there. It's just about the willingness for you to want to take that and find these people. Because as I say, networking is important. It's about just I think that, of course it's one of those things. It's about going out your comfort zone. It's getting out there.
Which is hard.
Which is really hard. It's
you're
not
in
a
this
natural
bubble
thing.
and you're like you're happy there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
the kind of safety of that, and but I think the more you do it, like anything, it's just a skill. It's you get better at it. The more that you go out and do podcasts and you talk and you just get yourself out there in front of people. I think it just gets easier,
It was one of the big levers for us to start doing the podcast. We're having so many great conversations by phone or by Zoom or whatever, and we're like, I love geeking out in people's workshops. So for a start, ticks my box. But it was like, we should just start going out, and because there'll be people listening to this that want to hear about your business. There'll be people that want to hear about whoever's business we're speaking to. So just getting out there and speaking to people. And we've definitely noticed that our engagement is big change since we've gone out there. So we've talked about trade shows and the sort of B2B just turning up. What about your business to customer marketing? How do you approach that one?
So a lot of it has been organically kind of there, which is great. But I know at some point, you got to step out of that as well, because it kind of slows down a wee bit organically. And in terms of marketing is something I would like to improve a lot more on, because I know I've got a product here. I've got a product which I know can sell. It sells a good story, and it's just about getting it out there. Yeah. I focused a lot on B2C side of things, or B2B, side of things that I've not done as much direct to customer. But yeah, that's something I want to do more on. Recently, a few months ago, I work with these guys called FIODH Studios, and so they do creative content. And they do videos of stories, and they reached out to me and said, let's do a passion thing. They want to do a passion project. Got everything set up, see me record, making, crafting, and we're gonna do this whole thing about the story, the background, and just put and they've got a link to I think the founder's sister. She's got a company called Evermore Communications that does more marketing, and so we're gonna combine the content and the marketing and try to just push it out there more to customers. Nice. And that way is hopefully, I'll see how it goes, but hopefully that'll work out. Because of course I think in the end we all want to go direct more to customers. Yeah.
Well, you did a Kickstarter, didn't you?
I did a Kickstarter.
And your Kickstarter video was good.
Thank you.
Kickstarter video was wicked. I was well impressed with that.
I sold it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that seems like such a long time ago now.
When was that?
2018. Mid 2018.
And how did you find that Kickstarter journey?
I always knew I probably needed to do a Kickstarter to get things off the ground, because
well, you've got a lot of investment, haven't you, in machinery to do this?
Yeah, so that's one of the things I feel it's important to touch on. Is I think a lot of people listening would be interested in how to finance things, because I think that's probably the most difficult thing. You've got an idea, you're already a creative person, right? But then combining that to go, how do you make this passion from a hobby into a career, right? And then there's that gap between that. So yeah, financing yourself financing to be able to buy certain machinery and stuff like that. I always knew I needed that. Also I knew I needed a studio space, right? Because that's one thing for what I do anyway. I couldn't really do this in a room somewhere, in a flat. I could not. So yeah, from the very beginning, I knew that this is something I needed. I knew I needed a lot of money to get myself going. Yep. I managed to kind of bootstrap a few things at the start with kind of more where my dad had his own kind of machines and stuff. It wasn't that much stuff. It was your standard tools, basic stuff, right? So I kind of took that, and the good thing about what I would recommend is that within your community, if you ever want to start and you don't have the machines, there might be a fabrication workshop or fab lab, which is a thing that at Strathclyde they had. Yeah. So I could pay a membership fee and then use their machines and stuff. I'll just book in slots. So that's kind of how I started, was using that. And so I was there every day. It's a good
way to test the waters, isn't it? To see 100%. What you can do.
Everyone's logging on to who's this bugger that's booked all this stuff?
No, I was so annoying. I was booking up all the time. But even then, it wasn't even enough. I was there every day because the uni would close and stuff, and I wouldn't be able to use it, and I'd be really frustrated, because I've got nothing else going on. This is my main bread and butter. I need to make this happen.
Yeah, you're fully absorbed in this, and then it's an external factor stopping you doing what you want to do that day. So it's so imperative having your own machinery.
Oh yeah, 100%. Then you're just it's just you now stopping yourself, no one else. Yeah, right. Yeah, and so that's kind of how I started, was with just paying £30 a month, and then just using these machines. That's where I did all the prototyping, and then also it was good because then you had other technicians to kind of help support you and go, okay, this is what you do, and you got some support there, which is great. So then, a few months time went by, and then I was like, right, I really need my own thing. I need my own place. I need to get things going. My mom's always been such a amazing support, so I managed to get a loan $5,000 from her, and then I was like, right, get a place, to get a studio. I know $5,000 is nothing. It goes so quickly, It's
a good start, though.
It's a great start, fantastic start, and so that did really help kind of get that off the ground in a way. I was like, right, so I bought that machine there. With that was one of the first ones. That cost me like £1,600, the CNC. Built it. It was all kit, so I had to put all the screws and everything together. That took freaking ages. And then of course the next few months was going, right, I'm on a time frame here because I need to make money.
Yeah.
Well, else that's it, it's done. It's back to square one.
Nothing like a bit of pressure, eh?
Exactly. Yeah. Pressure's good. it's good. So yeah, and then I guess gradually my thoughts was I need a product as soon as possible. I need to start selling things. Or I need, So at this point, when you create something, friends and family, I always say it is the most important thing when you start off, because they're the ones that will keep you afloat. You know. So, I had a product that, it wasn't perfect, but then, my family and friends, they all like bought stuff and just kind of kept things afloat a wee bit until I could get things better. And at that point, I was like, I really need to do a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I need to do something, or else it's going to be so hard. I need better machines. Like, I can't rely on the things I have right now. And so, yeah, I didn't really know how to go around the Kickstarter because, again, that there's a whole, like, system to doing it well. Yeah. You can't just like put up a thing and just make like a nice little video and
there's so much behind the
scenes.
There
is so many things. And
so for anyone that's listening, Kickstarter is a crowdfunding platform, but it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
If you make 1 penny, 1 cent less than what your goal is, your self-set goal, you don't get anything. They refund all the money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's mental. It's absolutely mental. And also, just know like what your target is, right? Yeah. Just make a good target, which don't go like too make a crazy target, because then you, I guess, unless you really need to hit that to purchase things, to get things manufactured or whatever it is, right? Set yourself a reasonable target. For me, Kickstarter was 2 things. It was getting the money to kind of keep me going to buy new things, but also for me, what was most important was, I guess, showing that people wanted to buy my stuff. Like people wanted, there was kind of credibility. It was important. And of course, the thing is going, right, people need to see your Kickstarter page. There's so many Kickstarters that happen all the time. There's so many on there, right? So you'll get flooded. And no one will find yours unless Kickstarter.
You log onto that front page and there's like a good million odd projects. It's like they've got that running total at the front, and every time you log on to it, there's more and more and more. It's just a sea of Kickstarter projects.
Oh, yeah, no, totally. And that's why you need to do the market. Like, you need to push out your stuff yourself, or if you're lucky enough, Kickstarter will somehow support you as well and kind of push you up there and get featured a bit. And that if you get featured, that helps a lot.
Yeah, it does.
And I really wanted that. I was like, Kickstarter, come on, feature me, please. They didn't, unfortunately. I don't know if they've seen it or not, but. So then it was at that point I was like, right, I just need to keep pushing. I went on to the streets of Glasgow. I started handing out flyers.
Did you?
I was doing all that. I was just letting people know, that I exist and there's this thing happening. Because if not, it's not going anywhere.
It's unusual to hear that, because it's normally just over the internet. But if you're physically giving something to someone.
Yeah, Michael went analog.
Yeah, I went. Yeah,
man, you went full analog. Good for you, man.
I tried to go all, because I knew, like, at that point, if it means so much to you, you're gonna do anything you can.
Yeah.
So I was just.
And there's a lot to be said for that. If you can't stand on a street and hand someone a flyer and sell your wares, do you really believe in what you're doing? Do you know what I mean? Do you really? If you can't stand there and give it your all to someone, do you really believe that that's worth having in your life?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So you done a lot of it through flyers.
I did, so I did flyers, record stuff, content. So that was content as well. I had someone recording. We had earpieces, chatting to people, just kind of getting people's what their thoughts were on it and stuff.
Cool.
Doing loads of different things. Also, it was for content and updating on the Kickstarter page to let people know what's happening as well. And then so it was that. What else was it? Just trying to get more also influencers involved as well, and trying to get, contacting maybe Scottish YouTubers and stuff like that. So trying to reach out to them and
that successful?
No, definitely. That was really helpful as well. That was big. So there's a YouTuber called Wee Scottish Lass, and she helped support. We had a chat, and she's just lovely. And she just did a video on her YouTube channel as well, and just kind of promoted that.
Good.
So there's loads of different ways, but
it's always hit or miss that thing with influencers, isn't it? Like,
it's
you hear so many horror stories, but then it only takes one good story to just like put your faith back in it. You know, these if you find the right people as well, these people are in it for the right reasons, and you know, it's good content for them as well. They're supporting a small independent business, you know, all that jazz. So, and how did you get you done the video as well? So you had a company come in and do the video and do the content. Or did you self-shoot that?
So the video was done by a good mate of mine who's helped me and supported me.
So handy to have friends who can do that.
It really is, yeah. No, he's great. So Jace, shout out to him. He's got his own wedding videography company now. Nice. And he's running amazing stuff on there. Afterglow Weddings.
Afterglow Weddings.
Afterglow Weddings, and it's fantastic. Honestly, he's been killing it with reels and stuff like that. Nice. Because he captures these like funny moments.
We need to talk to him, man. I want to know more about how to do good reels. People that do reels, totally. They hit the nail on the head every time.
No, it's blown. He's had millions of views and stuff. So he's doing really well. But so he originally started helping me out with a lot of content stuff, recording stuff, and still big help when he can. I know he's so busy. Yeah. So he did the video for the Kickstarter because again, the video is really important as well. The quality of that also helps a lot. Yes. So you need to do that well.
You can't sell a quality product with a 3 megapixel Nokia phone camera. You know, it's your quality needs to exude from every part of your Kickstarter. Exactly. I find Kickstarter. I've got a love-hate relationship with Kickstarter, but it's so transparent. If there's anywhere that if your copy's not right, if there's anywhere that's not 100% quality, the whole thing falls apart really quick.
Oh yeah,
really
it's all about, because a lot of it's about trust, right? Because a lot of people, and it's very common on Kickstarter for things just to fall really badly, and it still happens even with people who have good pages and stuff like that, good videos. That usually it's either a scam or their project doesn't work out. So a lot of Kickstarter, any crowdfunding, it's so much about trust. And so to be able to get that trust out to these people that don't know who you are, that like your product, but to get that across there, that's why the video and yourselves is so important to outreach that. So there's so much to it. It's crazy. But it was honestly that feeling. It was amazing when I hit the target. Because it was I think it was 15,000 was what I was trying to reach. And again, that was just a number I pulled out of thin air. Like in terms of, I would do things very differently now. 15,000 for me was like, if I hit that seems like, again, it gives me more confidence that what I'm doing is good. That's nice. But then at the same time, like, oh man, I need to hit it or else I get nothing. Why did I pick 15?
It's quite a hard target.
It's a pretty hard target, especially with very limited budget for marketing, because in the end, that's a lot of where it comes from. Is that, how much can you put into like Facebook or any kind of ads? Yes. There's a lot to it. So that got me off the ground, which is great. But again, even 15 grand or 16 grand, which I hit, it can run out very quickly. Yeah, it can. You start, because there's a fee as well for Kickstarter that takes a lot from you.
5%. I think it was 5% the last time we done Kickstarter. 5%. Yeah, 5%. And that adds up pretty quick.
That totally adds up, and then you've got that, and then you've got obviously your expenses for everything to get yourself started, so buying certain parts and machines and stuff like that, and then boom, sending everything off to people as well, so you've got all the expenses of that. So there's a lot of things, so it can go very quickly. But again, it was more about, for me personally, to give me more confidence in what I was doing, to show that people actually want this, and so I'm going to keep going. It's been so rough. So the story, right, is a crazy story. So basically after that, people wanted things for Christmas as well. So also be careful. Make sure that you have a clear plan of when you're launching stuff as well. It was something that I didn't really do very well. It was hard to know depending on the amount of people. So I had 100 people buy a watch, right? Nice. All over the world. Literally America, you had people in like Singapore, you had people all around Sweden.
Yeah, that's one of Kickstarter's real strengths. Is like certainly US market and the global customer base is unparalleled as far as I can see.
100%, yeah. So that's one of the great things. And a lot of people love Scotland whiskey, so that was great for me. America was a good target.
Love it.
So then I'm now in this situation where I've hit my target and I'm like, right, okay, I've never made this amount of watches in my life. Like, I've given people are contacting saying, oh, we bought this as a Christmas gift, you know, so do you think we're going to have it for Christmas?
So when did you launch?
So I launched it, I'm thinking like it was a 30-day campaign, September, October. I think I ended off. Right, and so I'm like, right, okay, so I've got...
The background of that is, by the way, Kickstarter takes like a month to release your money as well.
Yeah.
So if you're September, October, you're talking late October, late November, before you even see a pen.
Mate, I was going to my head going, right, okay, damn, right, people want it for Christmas. Obviously, it would be a shame to not, you know...
You want to do the best you can. Your name's on it,
yeah. At the same time, you want to do it well. You don't want to mess up, right? And I don't know, I've never, at that point, knew, like, what it would be like to make 100 watches, you know, just non-stop. So at that point, I slept in my studio.
Nice.
I got my mattress out. I was there every day, just sleeping, just sleeping.
The things you do.
I know, right? So it was just a non-stop, and then you've got the rush of the post office, which is fun, you know. So you're standing there with bags and stuff, and you're sending off and making sure, you know, everything goes well to all these countries. You've got all these customs things. You've got to make sure you're doing right as well. So I managed, which is God knows how.
Good for you.
See that first year you did. I can't get my head around this. Right, this does my box in. Slight moan at the post office. Anyone for the post office that's listening, I'm going to have a moan up. Why do they always put it in a shop? Because you're always waiting with hundreds of parcels, and there's some poor person behind you waiting, breathing down your neck with a loaf of bread and a pint of milk. And you're like, I'm really sorry. I'm going to be an hour. Do you know what I mean? They're always, all the post offices around ours are in a shop.
Well, you can drop and go now, but it's,
right, well, there you go.
You could, no.
Retract my moan.
That's I'm sure, there's loads of different ways you could have done it, or I could have done it. But yeah, it was more just, you've got the thing, just get out. Just make it, get out, make it, you know, and then make sure you, Oh, it was a mad time. I'm glad it's done. I'm glad that phase is done.
Yeah.
Would I do a Kickstarter again? Probably. You know, I would. There's a lot I could learn from. But yeah.
There was an amazing document I was reading. Someone had put about. It was there's a Kickstarter product design company. They do camera gear.
Right.
Peak Design.
Right.
Peak Design. They made a clip for a camera that could go in your belt strap or your belt or whatever. And it was wildly successful. And they've launched like everything through. They're the guys that you see that are doing the like tens of millions in pre-sale Kickstarters.
Right.
And I was listening to a podcast with him, and he was saying it's like once you do your second Kickstarter, it may or may not do as well as your first. Your third Kickstarter, not bad. But by the time you get to your fourth Kickstarter, and you've already got a big Kickstarter following, because that Kickstarter following's a thing in itself, and you look at all their projects, and they're just rolling big money in. Like there was a significant jump when they got to that, and I always wonder about that with people doing Kickstarters. Like, is there a viable world to just?
No, I'm just saying you've got to have the faith to be able to just like, right, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
It's just taking that risk, whether you do or not. It's the name of the game.
100%. That sounds similar to when people do just generally start off a business, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to get put off by the first time you do it, and you go like, oh my god, like would never go for that again. But if you can just go, I've learned actually so much, you know, and I can just take that on.
We did the Kickstarter for the publication that wasn't successful, but we did it anyway. We just took the risk and did it because you know sometimes you need that failure to be like, oh.
But I must say, probably a good 60 to 70% of the people that pledged on the Kickstarter, because you can still put up on your Kickstarter, you know, we're going to do this anyway, you know, we're ignorant, pig-headed, we're just going to do it anyway. And sure enough,
they came over and bought anyway.
They all came back and bought anyway.
Yeah.
So as an advertising thing, it cost us time, but it was free ads because you obviously don't pay anything because you only pay if you succeed. Yeah. So that worked really well.
Right. Oh, that's great. That's good to know.
So you'd possibly do one again?
I would potentially do one again. It depends because again, there's so many variations where you could focus your business on, right? And Kickstarter, obviously in the name, is generally good for people who want to kickstart. So I think it's like I don't need to kickstart right now. Like I don't need. I've got a rhythm of how things are going. You know, I've got companies, I've got collaborations, I've got things that I'm working towards. I've got product ideas. I've got so many different areas. My brain is constantly just boom, 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 you know, ready to go for like other things. So yeah, do I really need to? Maybe it would be good if there was ever a different kind of launch and I needed to do it, or at least maybe it'd be good to kind of touch the market and see what it's like. But at the same point, you know, I think, it's just, I guess, nice just to learn more about direct customer stuff now. You know, just going out there and just building an audience, myself, my own platform, my business, growing that brand name without having to do it through that kind of means. I think, Kickstarter is great if you need it for its purpose, which is to get things rolling. You know? So,
And so now, where do you sell your watches? Is it online or is it in shops?
So I've got it online. I've got shops throughout Scotland.
Oh, good.
You know,
what shops have you got them in?
so I've got some independent shops in different kind of places. You've got in Dunkeld, there's a nice shop there. There's Gilphead as well. There's a place there. There's Dundee as well. There's in Edinburgh. I've got one of the amazing places is the Scotch whisky experience. So
Nice.
Never been in there.
Not been in there yet.
I've got my own stand in there, and I've got the
Oh,
watch there, so that's
nice.
really nice. So I've got it there, and then distilleries as well. I've got stuff in different distilleries, but they're a lot more their own branded stuff on that.
Okay.
So that would be more the collaboration side of things.
Yeah.
And how do you approach that wholesale with shops? Are they doing buy and return? Are they paying you once they sell, or are they buying them off you at wholesale price?
Majority of times, it's they'll buy it wholesale, and then they'll just sell it, and then they'll come back if they sell
Buy
stuff.
more,
And then just there's probably just one I'm doing, which is at the Old Putney, all the way towards Wick. And there they've got my watch there, and it's just kind of if someone buys it, then they'll buy it off me, kind of thing.
Right, so they're doing that more as a showcase stand. The order would come direct. So they would order it with the store, but then the order comes for you to the store to them.
Yeah.
Right, that makes sense. And then you are direct to customer and your own, because you obviously sell through your own online shop as well. How are you marketing that? How are you getting that out there?
It's a lot of things. It's through Instagram. I would say Google. Sometimes people just like buy stuff through seeing it on Google. Like if I type in like unique whiskey gifts or whiskey ideas and stuff like that, things it'll pop up and stuff like that.
And that's all through your SEO and
I know I could do a lot better with it, like 100%. Like I want to revamp the website. Because I know that there's so much other things I would like to do with the website. I know that as an emotional based, like story based, I guess company, I would love to showcase more of that on my website.
We feel you with that one. Website's another.
It's very difficult, especially something that's just a screen. It's flat. It's like, how do you bring all that emotion from that? How do you convey all that? And obviously, like things like videos and stuff like that would definitely help. Doing more stuff like that. But I know I've been doing a lot of things organically, and I think a lot of my focus recently have been on collaborations. So I haven't put that side of effort into more direct customers, but that's something I'll do a lot more of going forward.
And then Instagram being your main platform to do that. What are you on? Facebook, Pinterest, any of those as well?
Pinterest is something I've been looking more into because I heard it's good.
Everyone's telling us it's good.
Yeah,
and I'm waiting to speak to someone who's like, it's really good, I'll set it up for you. I'm like, please do.
I know. Let me know as well.
But exactly. It looks really good though. Right. And again, Bantam was talking about that. They were really impressed with that.
That's where they get most of their sales, they said.
Yeah, coming through that. Apparently it's like the most advanced visual search engine on the planet.
Damn.
Never knew it.
No,
but I've only ever looked at it
again,
when
it's
we're
just
renovating
another
our house.
thing to do.
It is, yeah.
It's another thing to learn and keep on top of, which I find hard.
No, 100%. I don't know what direction to go sometimes because I'm like, this, that, and you're flipping, you're like,
You just need to make the products.
Well, that's it. I think the most important thing is like, you need the stock, you need things there, to keep that there at least, because things do trickle, in different different streams, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's just keeping that. That's the most important thing. And then I've got like the things with collaborations and stuff like that. Like these things don't just happen overnight. Like they take time to brew. Right?
Yeah.
It takes time until you speak to the right person. You know, a lot of times it falls through as well. You know, so like you get your hopes up, and then boom, someone's left the job, and that person that you're in
just start again.
and now you're like,
Yeah, that happens more often than not. People speak to, like, oh, I had this great collaboration, but then they move job, and they're like, and it's just gone.
It's
like
gone,
your whole collaboration's pinned on this one person's position who's had a crap Monday, and they're like, sack this.
Yeah.
You know, it does happen.
Yeah.
And so you've with your social media and stuff, how are you approaching content for that? You know, we talked about your pal coming in and doing the video, and do you batch a bunch of content, or do you just go as you go? Like, and the reason I'm asking is because we're trying to work out how to do it ourselves. I think every maker's trying to work out the best way to do it.
I'm in the same boat then. Like, you know, I mean, like, I would love to set up everything so I could just constantly just have things going while I go through, and I'm sure this is normal for a lot of people, where they go through little kind of loads, like they just get into it, and you're like, you got a good rhythm, and then suddenly like it drops off, and
haven't
you're like,
posted in 2 weeks.
You haven't posted, and you're like, oh no, and you've kind of lost that rhythm, you know. Because it's, I guess
the algorithm is funny as well. It's like, if you don't
exactly.
post, it's like, oh well, forgotten about you.
Yeah, consistency is key. That's always been the thing, you know, if you ever want to do something. And because I would love to do a lot more in terms of even. Like, I love my hiking. I love going out into the nature. I love like exploring, and again, that's got a lot of connections to my brand in Scotland and promoting that. So I want to do more of that, you know. And
I guess working for yourself allows you to do that.
Yeah,
have the time to do that when you need it.
Yeah. Totally. So I think I like I said, I want to do more of that. I don't do it enough. And it's just getting that right balance. But yeah, it'd be nice to get someone else on board to help, I guess, as well.
Yeah, man, it's a full-time job. Like, it's a full. There's so many different platforms. It's a full, and I mean, there's software like Later and whatnot that you can do loads of posts, and you can batch it, but it's just masses of time out your day. And I'm always amazed at people that we speak to that have just got that absolutely nailed. And I'm trying to work out how we can get that nailed in our workflow at the minute. It's.
You do it full time.
No, this is it. Yeah, leave my job and do it full time. And then we couldn't afford to do the magazine anyway. So, you know what I mean? It's like, which one works? No. So it is difficult.
It is, and I'm sure at some point you'll get there, right? Because again, it's just that whole like connection. It's like connecting the blocks, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you'll learn how things fit well, but it won't happen straight away.
No.
Yeah. You know, and you need that patience. You know,
patience
you need
is something we just need to.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest downfall, right? Is a lot of times, like, we all want. I think nowadays, anyway, everyone wants success straight away. Right? It's like, I want things just to happen. You know, I'm gonna set up my TikTok account, and I want it just to blow up, and I just want things rarely just blow up. It takes time. It takes consistency. It takes a lot of heart and determination. You know, like you got to, and I think that's the biggest challenge of them all when you start off doing whatever's your passion, right? You'll learn sooner or later if it really is your passion, if it really is something you want, because all these ups and downs will test that. It will test whether you can. Like my business, I've nearly gone to nothing. I've nearly lost it all like 3 or 4 times throughout this whole 5 years of me doing this. Like, I'm surprised I'm still here going sometimes. Because I've hit rock bottom so many times. Where I feel like there's nowhere else to go, but I just got to keep my head up high and go, all right, I'm going to keep going.
Hey man, I don't think you're alone. I don't think you're alone. I think what we could all do better as creatives and as makers is just talk about that.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Because like everyone we've spoke to has been through it. We've definitely been through it.
Well, the people that have listened to our podcast so far, they've messaged me and said thank you, because I needed to hear that. And I think it's important to talk about it, because you can talk about all the good things, but really there's just as many bad things that go on.
Oh yeah,
yeah, exactly. How easy is it to be like, had a great week this week, go down to the pub on a Friday, or go for a meal with your pals at the weekend and be like, yeah, great week this week.
Yeah. Oh no, 100%. It's so easy. Obviously, everyone wants to portray things that's good and nice, and and support, because it's like you want to send the positive vibes, right? You want to send people to, but people do need to hear the fact that it's not easy. There is struggles, and I guess how realistic it is. Because I think that's where people go, oh, I can get instant success, because they think that it just happens straight away. It doesn't.
Yeah.
You gotta go through all these turbulence. You gotta go through that. Or else if you don't go through that, I don't think you can develop yourself to be strong enough to keep things going if you don't, right? It's definitely starting a business is test of character.
Yeah.
And I think going back to something that helps me a lot of being able to go through all these ups and downs, and not, because I could have scrapped this ages ago and said, you know what, when I first started, my whole idea was to get experience. As I said, that's why I started. I was like, I've got abundance of experience. I've won awards. I've sold things everywhere. I've got
a wicked CV now.
Exactly. I could just go out and sell myself to just have a stable, normal job, right? But I love this so much, right? I've gotten to this point where someone somehow the only way it's ever gonna stop is if everything's gone and taken away from me. Because that's the only point where I'll let go of this. And so everything that I've experienced in the past, from the boxing thing to learning to just pick myself up and keep going, this is it again, when I'm doing this business, because this is it. It's the test. It's always a test. Every day, every morning you wake up is a test, right? It's, how to keep improving yourself. You can only improve yourself if you see what your flaws are. Yeah. Right. If you don't know that, it's hard. So I think, it's, there's loads of moments which I think helps to get to this. And I think the most important thing is that whole side of perseverance, determination, right? And you don't need to start a business to try to develop that. And I think that's why sports is something that's always good. Yeah. It's always that part of helping. Before I started my business, I did this Cape Raft Trail, right, which is like a long distance walk. It takes average 21 days to walk from Fort William all the way up to Cape Raft, which is at the very top of the tip of Scotland. And so
self-supported.
I just got a backpack and just went, let's do this. And I had no idea how I was going to do it. I didn't know it was. They call it Britain's toughest trail. So I knew it would be hard.
How many miles in were you when you realised it was a massive mistake?
When I looked at my bag before I got on the ferry, I looked at it and I was like, damn man, why did I carry so much stuff? It was the thing is, I tried to do it on a budget. This was before I started my business, so already I was skint, after being a student. I was looking for a job, and I was like, right, I was trying to do to raise money for a children's charity at that point, for me, that whole journey, it took me 15 days to do the whole walk, 11, 12 hours of walking a day. Big backpack, 30 kilos through the ups and downs of the Highlands. It was just, it was so many days where I was just in pain, just camping out. I took a 3-man tent with me, because I was on budget. It was so stupid. I completing that again. It was, for me, it felt like it was a test of the whole journey of even starting or doing something that you love, is that up and down. Right? Going through it, but knowing that's where your direction, where you want to end up is. And I think that's important, because I think it's so easy to. I think once you start feeling lost sometimes and not having any direction, that's when things become really tough. Because then you're like, what am I doing now? And without that, you don't have a drive, because your drive comes from for seeing something, right? And when you don't see something or you know your direction, then you can go backwards. You can work as hard as you like, but you're going backwards. You're working hard going backwards. You know?
That's a good way to put it.
It's a great way to put it.
So it's you need to know, what is your next goal? What is your next thing? And to keep pushing yourself towards that. And I think it's important to break that down as well, right? So you've got your big overall goal where you want to get to, what you want to accomplish, but break that down, because sometimes if it's such a big goal, then that puts you off as well. So make these steps, as long as you're going in the right direction, and that'll help you. But yeah,
Goals,
you need
goals
that.
is a big one. You know,
Yeah.
you can set them too high, and you're never going to achieve it in the time that you want to achieve it, and it's quite intimidating.
Oh yeah, no.
Well, you and I are very different in that respect,
Yeah,
aren't you?
yeah.
You're less good. You're better. You're better at setting smaller goals. You're less good at looking at big, massive goals because they're overwhelming.
Yes.
Whereas I tend to be better at just massive goal.
Right.
Just like that's one goal. Whereas I'm really bad at looking at that one goal and then just like everything else just gets cast off to the side just to get to there. Whereas Kate's really good at just goal, like very method.
What's the word?
Methodological.
Good method. and kind of hitting all the points. Whereas I seem to be better at just rushing to the big goal, but then I may have missed some key points. And it's happened before where actually it looks like I've got to that goal, but the keystone's been knocked out of place.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, totally.
So, yeah.
Totally.
I was going to say I'm quite interested to find out about your space. So obviously was this your first space?
No, so my first space was so as I said before, it was the uni was my first base, I guess. And then I got my first space, which was at the Whiskey Bond, which is a building at the canals up towards Maryhill. And it's a beautiful little space there. It's got a lot of creatives in there as well, and it used to be where they held a lot of whiskey barrels and stuff like that in the past.
Quite an apt place for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I loved it when I was there. The thing is, basically a friend of mine's showed me on Gumtree that someone was renting out their space for 6 months for half the price of what they would spend it, and they already had. It was the woman that was there. She was pregnant, and so she wanted to let go of that space for a bit and still keep it, I guess. So I took that on. I was like, oh, that's great. She'd already got some machines because she'd made like architecture models and stuff like that.
Okay.
So she had bandsaws and certain small things. I could still use that and get a few things. So that I was there for 6 months. And that at the start of that point, I did also already. I know I said I slept in the studio. I've slept way too many times in studios, man. I'm so glad I don't do it anymore. Yeah. But I was I actually initially because my mom, she lives in Alexandria, so it's I was traveling in and out into Glasgow where my studio was at, and it was just so much effort. Like it took me
hours out your day.
I wasn't taking the train because it was so expensive as well to go in and out. So I took the bus. It would take an hour and a half to get in. And then I would go back and I would come back. And so that's why I decided to sleep in that studio initially for I think it was 3 months in. Like, I got a so stupid. I bought a hammock. Now it seems like a great idea, right? And I swung it up and I was like, right, that's where I'll sleep.
Yeah. This is where you're about to like bust the myth of everyone that's like, I want my own little business and I want to live in the studio and I want to be like homogenous with the business. About to bust that myth.
No, it was not a good idea. Like it was more of necessity rather than having to want to be there, you know. Sleep there because there is that side where it is nice being away from it as well, because sometimes you can be more reflective when you're away from the space that you're constantly in. You know. So I did that. That was first for 6 months, and then after that, I moved into where I am now, but in a smaller room. Yep. Which was my space, but it was smaller. It was tiny. Literally, I had my whole workshop was in a small cupboard within the space. It was a tiny cupboard I set up, and then I had desks and stuff laid out, and I was there for like a year and a half or two. I can't remember exactly, but I was there, and that's where I did my Kickstarter as well. Okay. So that was where I was sleeping in this tiny little. Honestly, the air mattress filled up pretty much the whole room. It was so small, so I was just lying there, just waking up, going in a little cupboard, making stuff, and then then I got into this bigger space after that.
Awesome.
It was actually quite interesting how I got this space. Originally there was architects in this room, and so they left the lights and stuff like that. They all set up everything. It was quite an interesting space. They had like I can't remember the name of that. It's like when you go to the morgue, there's like the silver table with the body
slab.
I don't know if it's a slab, but there's a certain name. It's like a bath where they drain the.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like they
no
keep that
idea.
and they do the. So they had a.
They weren't architects, mate.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, so so they had that and they used that as a table, like, and it was funny because yeah, it was mad. Anyway, so that was just a side thing. But so they had that, and they left the room, and I was like, initially I was going to keep the small room and take this room on and create partitions and stuff like that, and then rent out all the partition bits for other creatives. So I thought, right, because overheads, I want to lower it down. I want to keep, I want to find a way I can not spend money on my space and have this bigger room as well. So that was the plan, and that was the plan. I was able to afford to do all this because. Also, I won Scottish Edge.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that later, but that's a good one to win.
So that was a fantastic competition to win, and again, that's I knew I always wanted to apply for that, but it was doing it at the right time because when you've created some kind of, I guess, credibility, to that point, you need that for them to go, yeah, you know what, yeah. So I won. Was it Creative Edge and / Young Edge. I was happy with because I just scraped it into the Young Edge. I was like, yes, I'm still young. I just hit for it. I'm still young. So then I spent money on buying machines and stuff like that with the money because you won 10 grand on that.
Oh, nice.
Fantastic. And then, then I bought like all the scaffolding boards, partitions, everything. I spent pretty much, I went all in, spent everything I had. Setting up this room and then having the machines and then COVID hit, and now I tripled my expenses at that point because I had this room. I couldn't get anyone in anymore, so I had this room to cover, my other room to cover. I spent all my money.
But you didn't expect it to happen.
No, I didn't expect it to happen, and I was like, oh shoot, man, like that's like I don't know what to do because at that point. I was at the very beginning again of having new machines to learn. So I didn't have any watches to make again, and I didn't have anything to keep things going. And so I was just scraping and going, oh man, I just need the worst decision ever to now have this other room. And the guys who run this whole building, they wouldn't let me let go of this room or the small room. And so I had to pay like crazy amount of money. And I was like, oh man. So I had to try figure out a way to
make it work.
To make it work. And so what I started doing.
Can you see okay?
Yeah. Can you see me? have I just disappeared?
Just
I feel like this is like a spiritual moment right here.
It's going to get good in a minute. The sun's just shone through.
So at that point, obviously, it was a very weird time for everybody. And
how did you cope? Did you cope through the pandemic? Did
you
have enough to keep you going?
It was more the fact, I guess. It was more I didn't really know what I should do next because I didn't have any watches to sell at that point. So this was just 2020 it hit, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't have any stock. I just had these new machines after winning Scottish Edge. I was in such a high where I won it, and I was like, yeah, okay, this is it. I've got this new space. Did all this, spent like a month building everything and putting all this together, and I couldn't get anyone to move in. I didn't know what was happening. I thought they were going to lock up this whole building, so I wouldn't be able to work or anything. So I was just like, oh no, what am I going to do? So I panicked and I took a lot of my machines to my flat, thinking they were going to lock everything down. Yeah. And then I was at that point, I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? What am I going to sell? I need to make money, support and keep things going. I'm literally going into my minus now, right? And I'm like, oh man, I've just got all this stuff, but I got no way to do anything, and so then I started making, it was funny, I started using my laser cutter and I started making puzzles, maps, like so people would send me location maps and I would create puzzle pieces that were with their location map on it, and they would just build it together because I was like, oh, it's smart because people are going to be at home and also they might want something they can frame up after they put the pieces together. So I called it map puzzles or map puzzles. Nice. It was a great pun. I was like, and then I started selling that on Etsy. And that kind of kept me afloat for like a wee bit, until I managed to kind of figure stuff out. And then And then I realized they weren't closing this building down, so I managed to get things back in.
Yeah.
And and it was just kind of a gradual thing where I had to kind of pick things up. And one thing at that point that really supported me was the government was with the grant as well. If you had your own space, I could get some support for coronavirus. And that basically just picked me back up again, because then I was able to have time to learn the new machines, to start learning the process again and pick things going and
because it takes time to learn these things.
It does,
that needs to be your focus.
Exactly, yeah. So so I think that at that point, and in 2021 it was great, because then I had my first collab with Scotia, which was my first distillery that I worked for, and they wanted 100 clocks made, sent all over Europe.
Wow,
and that was fantastic. That was a fantastic gig.
That's a big old collab for your first one.
That was a big one, and I got that through basically sending a watch to an influencer, and they knew someone that worked in Scotia. They seen that, and
it's amazing. You just never know, do you?
Yeah. Again, you just never know. You just got to do these things.
I mean, did you give that watch away for free? Or?
Yeah.
So sometimes you just need to do that, and it's a bugbear sometimes. Given that you never know if you're going to get anything from it, but.
No, I've had so many occasions where I've sent stuff, nothing's happened. Again, it's a hit or miss, and you just gotta do it. You gotta go. A
watch is one of these things, though. Like you admire. It just takes the right person to admire someone wearing a watch, and
Yeah.
I think it's hard, though, isn't it? Everyone's got different views on it. I've got very different views to Kate on it.
Right.
Like giving stuff away for free and like. But you're right, it's hit or miss. Like you just don't know, man.
It's all hit or miss. Trade shows, hit or miss. Giving things to influencers, hit or miss.
The only guarantee is if you're not there, you ain't making anything.
Exactly. This it all goes down like none of this what we're doing would ever exist if we didn't just go for it.
People like even like family and friends. How are you going to make money from it? I'm like, that doesn't matter. We'll just do it and see how it goes. We're not in it to make a lot of money, We're not. We're in it to make a difference.
We have a product to sell. Financially, we don't have big overheads. We live a very, pared down life, and I still work full time to fund it. And do you know what? It's one of those things. When we set out at the start, we says we're going to give it 5 years. I was like, we'll give it 5 years. If it's fallen by then we've got no choice but to fold it. But we knew we'd have to give it that amount of time, which I think was a fair amount of time. And it's at a point now where it covers its own cost. Kate can't take a wage out of it yet. I obviously don't take a wage anyway. Yeah. But it covers its costs.
Yeah, it takes so much time to build something like that, because there's so much finances that goes to so many places.
Oh man, everywhere. Almost every email you've got the good inbox, which is cool. You've got creatives to contact you. Every other email that comes through my inbox is like an invoice that needs paid. Someone else that wants something, and it's But you're right. If you never tried, you wouldn't know. Only takes. We spoke to Laura Bartlett, who runs House of Cocoa magazine, a couple of weeks back at the International Magazine event in Edinburgh. Might have been as long as a month ago now. And like. The things that she was pointing at, that we are now kind of building the backside of the website and other areas of We Are Makers to be able to do that. And she's built a very successful business in not a lot of time. No. She's got people working all over the world for her, creating content, and it's like you just need to give it everything. Give it everything.
I 100% believe what you guys are doing is going to be successful. Like I don't see how you could fail with the idea of it, with what you're doing. There's not many people doing what you're doing, and I think it's important. It's in such an important space.
It really is.
To showcase all these amazing creatives, people everywhere in the world, and to bring that all together into one.
It's a task.
I think it is, it's definitely it's a huge undertaking. But it's incredible because people want to hear these stories. People want to be inspired by it. People want, there's so many people out there that would love to be doing what all of us creators are doing, and if we could give them that little spark, that little bit of buzz, that little energy, just to go, just go for it, just give it a shot, because we we only live once.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was a maker. I've done it. You
Yeah.
know, when I came out of university, I was doing children's furniture, but I didn't really want to go and get a job as per se, because I thought I want to try this on my own. You know.
Yeah.
So, you know, I did the Princess Trust thing where I got a loan. I've got a big CNC machine that I've not used for years, which is just sitting there thinking, I really want to get up and running again.
Right.
And then I stopped doing that. And then you were working down south at the time. I said, right, this isn't working right now. Maybe I do need to just go get a job. So I did go and get a job. I worked in Untus Last in London, who make CNC furniture.
We're basically doing the adult version of the kids'
Yes.
furniture you were doing.
Right. Cool.
Not linked at all, but
No.
it just happened to be the case.
And I was there for 6 months, and I was like, I didn't really have much of an input in what like they were doing. I just felt my creative side. I was just making furniture. I
Yeah,
didn't,
sure.
you know. And
I think it was a bit more than that,
but
though,
I'm not
wasn't
going
it?
to
Like,
go into it. I'm not going to go into
no, it wasn't a bad thing.
No.
It's like your day one, you know, Kate's assembling some furniture, and it's like Kate, having built furniture and designed furniture, knows it pretty well, funnily enough. You know, if we increase the tolerances here and here, this will all go together faster, better, less chance of it getting damaged. Month 6, still hammering the same.
Right.
It's a CNC machine, man.
Yeah.
Jump on CAD, change it, 10 minutes.
Yeah. No,
So
totally.
that kind of got frustrating, and then you weren't really able to be as creative as you wanted to in that job, were you?
Nah, and then you said there's an opening to run a metal machine rather than wood in the film studio. So
CNC plasma cutter, yeah.
I think I did that for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, so done loads of things. And
Yeah.
then you were still working in film.
Yep.
And then I decided that I still wasn't being creative doing that either. So I said, well, let me take on your leather work and stuff, because you've done a few Kickstarters for your leather work with
Yep.
belts and key hooks and whatever. And I says, I quite fancied just trying it. So I did that again with Ardent Leather.
Yep.
And I was having the same problems where I couldn't tell my story. I was really finding it hard to contact people. And I was like, there's got to be something out there like We Are Makers. But there just wasn't. There wasn't a platform. I mean, there was, but not in the way that I could see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just
There was a
thought-
lot of little niche platforms, wasn't there?
but it was like either just for the UK or for like America. There's nothing that was just global. And I thought, I've got to do something. I've got to do something. And yeah, so that's where We Are Makers came from.
I think no, it definitely takes time. You know, I've had so many odd jobs as well along the way. You know, I didn't just kind of rely on everything, because if I did, it would be very strenuous and very difficult to keep things going. And I've always knew that if you want to make something work, you know, you will probably need to take a part-time job or something just on the side. You know, even if you don't like it, you know, you're doing that because you believe in the other thing you're doing, you know, to get you by. And that also shows that side of how much it means to you, that you could just go and get a stable job, but you're doing this rubbish job on the side just to keep yourself going. You know, and that's fine. Like I've cleaned boats just to keep going. I've cleaned student accommodation. You know, I've worked in bottling factories. You know, I worked at a toy shop. You know, dressing up as a bear and everything.
Really?
Like yeah, I've done so many things during this whole thing while I've been building this. You know, it's not straightforward. Like, bam, you've got, you know, the Kickstarter is going to keep you going, and that's it. Now everything's afloat. You've won awards, and that's it. Everything's going to be brand new and keep you going. No, it's a continuous grind. You know, but there's improvements. You know, no matter sometimes if you think it's slow, you're still going in the right direction. You're still doing something that you love and you're passionate about. So you know, I always say if you struggle to go, I can't balance working full time and doing something that you love, then maybe go part time and then do something you love a lot more. As long as you're willing to sacrifice the rest of the things in your life, and the hardest thing, I think for me anyway, was speaking for myself, is, you know, you see all your friends or you see other people, they've got like, sometimes generally it's like, oh, they're moving on in life, you know, they've got, you know, they're able to buy these things, go on these holidays, like do all these things, and you're like I'm struggling here. Just
How many times have we
you know,
We
totally hear it.
exactly. But I think
Yeah.
that's normal. But there again, it comes back to you a question, like, it must mean that so much for you not to live that life, you know. To
Oh
do what
man,
you're
everyone's
doing now.
different, isn't it?
You know?
Everyone's different, and if you've got something you want to do, just do it. And hey, I've got loads of pals that have got normal jobs, super happy. more power to them. So, I am genuinely very, very happy for them. A little bit jealous of the fact they're on holidays. But no, I'm genuinely like super, super happy for them. But it's just not for me. Like, it's just not for me. It's not for you. It's not for you. It's like, it's horses for courses, man.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, you'll get two sides of every coin, right? It's the same thing. You know, you've got friends that are envious of like that. You've got the freedom of you can do these things and you're building this, which sounds exciting and fun. Yeah. You know, it gives meaning to your life as well. Like, it's just that extra bit of fire, you know, while it's like, you know, but they don't like their job, right? But it brings them income, whatever. So it's just both of that, you know. Obviously, eventually we all want to get to the same place in a way, right? We're all striving to just fulfill our lives with things that make us happy. That is most important, you know, that we're striving for things. And sometimes happiness means that you got to go through shit at the start. You know, and I mean, that's the most important thing, that happiness doesn't just come by things just being easy. No. You got to go through that tough grind. You got to be willing to sleep on the ground and, you know, like have your business nearly disappear. Like, I've had my bank account like have like such a low amount. The worst, I remember the worst time ever where I experienced going to a cash to take out some money from the bank, and I literally declined both my business account and my personal account. I had like nothing. Literally at that point I had zero. Right. And I remember just thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, you know, like this is the lowest of like having any money. Don't even have a job. What am I doing? You know?
So these are the exact kind of stories that Kate and I set up, that we are makers, and more so the podcast, because I think the podcast does a better job of conveying it when you can hear and see people talking about it. Like, this is what you're buying into. You know, if I buy one of your watches, this is what I'm buying into. I'm buying into the day that you couldn't even pull enough money for a Greg's in the morning. Do you know what I mean? I'm buying into the fact that you go and, you know, you have to dry out your whiskey, the barrel staves. You need to CNC it yourself. I'm buying into the fact that you had to sleep on the floor. I'm buying into you. Do you know? And it's one of the sort of key mission statement was to connect consumers to the makers and see that there is a better way to buy, and that you, when you're buying with these people, you'll always get someone that just says like, "Oh, that's ridiculously expensive. I could order something like that on Amazon." Sure, you're always going to get that, but you're not going to get you behind it. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of where we've always been from.
And I think you'd rather someone bought something that they really appreciate it, rather than someone that's gonna be like, oh, it's expensive, I'm gonna buy it.
Exactly.
You're like, well, you know, it's fine. It's like, I see my work as a piece of art, right? Yeah. Like, if someone doesn't like it, or someone doesn't like the way it looks, it doesn't, you know, that's fine. It's not for you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not for you, and that's fine. You know, just let's move on. You know, there's other things out there for you. You know, like,
it's good having that mindset, because sometimes it can be hard to...
Oh yeah, of course, and it's so easy to be like, oh my God, why do you not like my stuff?
Yeah,
like, come
it's
on,
amazing.
Like,
How could you not?
The whole world, everyone should like it, but it's like, it's not. Everyone's different, and that's okay. That's what makes us unique. You know?
Yeah. Jamie had a great outlook on that. I thought Jamie's outlook from Bantam Frameworks, his view was the worst thing you can be is indifferent. Like, he'll happily take someone ripping into the product, because for everyone that rips into the product, there's always someone that loves it. But the worst thing you can be is just something that someone scrolls by. You know? And I thought, actually, 100%. That's probably the number one advice if someone's questioning their design or questioning their product. It's like, don't create something someone's going to scroll by. Just create something that's like unapologetically you. You've decided this is what you're doing, so I'm going to do that my way, 100% me.
No, totally. Yeah, no, totally. I totally agree. I think, as I said from the very beginning, you know, being unique, being creative, being different, it's so important, you know. Try find what makes you, you know, and put that into the products or whatever you create. Because that's what's going to stand out. You know, I think we're so used to just people, I don't know, I find it strange that, you know, like we're so used to wanting to just be like everyone else and copy things and follow each other, you know, and just to feel like, just to feel together or apart. But it's like, no, you don't need to feel like you need to do exactly what everyone else does to feel inclusive, you know?
And that all wears off real quick, doesn't it? Like, people are like, oh, I want to do that so then I can be part of that community. But it's like, but that's not genuinely you. It's maybe what you think you want to be, but it's not genuinely you. Like, find your why.
Sure.
You know, if you find your why.
hard to keep up something that you're not.
Yeah, yeah, it absolutely is.
That's the
Yeah,
dilemma.
no, 100%.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so I think there's this one story I want to explain. It was, I guess, linked as well when I first started, and I think it's a funny story to tell. So why not? So when I finished my masters, it was at Christmas point there. It was getting to Christmas time when I finished, and I was like, got friends in Germany that I met, and they wanted me to go over and see them, and I had no money. I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? So I decided at that point to do something a bit mad, which is make Christmas decorations, right? And go over there and sell it, right? And how I would sell it, I would go door to door, right, in Germany. I don't speak German, by the way.
Right. This is going to be good.
There we go. So at this point, I already signed up to the Fab Lab and used their laser cutter, and I made these like reindeers and things out of plywood, and it's just put a ribbon on them. Got a shoebox, made 400 of them, right? Got really cheap tickets to like Hamburg, and then I flew over there, stayed with him, and my plan was, right, okay, I want to just make some money. I want to sell stuff. I want to, have a nice holiday, and let's just see how this goes. So I memorized this line of how to sell my Christmas decorations, and I'm sure I can still say it. Is it? Moin, mein Name ist Michael. Ich bin ein Student aus Schottland. Ich verkaufe diese handgemachten Weihnachtsdekoration, mache den sie einkaufen, which means, so I'm a student from Scotland. I've got these handmade Christmas decorations. Would you like to buy them? That was it. And I'll just ring, and I'll say that. I'll open up my shoebox, and I'll just sell it. And amazingly, it was like it was going really well. Like
really,
yeah. So I would.
You have some guts to do that,
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, it was.
Next foreign country.
It was. I guess like as I say, I always like challenges. I always like doing and just going for it and trying, because if you don't do that, you never know if it's going to work or not, right? And what's the worst that can happen? I mean, there is probably worse that can happen, but let's not go there. So yeah, it always fine. There will be people who get angry at you, be like surprised. They'll look at you and be like, "What?" They'll start speaking German. I'll be like, "Nick verstehen." I don't know what you're saying. But in my head, and I feel like this is just universal, right? What I learned is that you've got a planned out area of where you're gonna just go, right? I'm gonna go for 4 hours, and I'm gonna ring all the doorbells and just go through the street and just kind of work my pattern down, right? Probably 90% or more will say no, but just that 10% will make up a huge amount of the money within that time.
Yeah.
And so in 4 hours, I was doing 140 euros average, right? And I did that for, I think, like 8 days. Right, and then I just had a blast of a holiday. Came back in like £900, and it was. But it just shows, like it's and the same with business. You will have loads of people rejecting, loads of people but it's just a small margin of people that will make that big difference, and that is your community. That is the people that love what you do, that like your stuff. Yeah, So. Yeah, it was
awesome.
Good on you, man. That's wicked. I like that. I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah. No, I feel like that kind of. After I came back, I was like, I would love to create something different, unique, and a watch was something that I felt was a good challenge. I asked myself, can I do that?
Yeah.
And I thought, why not? Let's give it a go.
I'm glad you said that last after you're in Glasgow handing out flyers about a Kickstarter. I'd have found the flyers in Kickstarter way less impressive. being in Germany, straight up selling something in a language you don't speak, that's wicked. Good for you.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, it was good. A part of me is always like, oh, should I do it again? Nice wee holiday. But I'm like, nah.
But this time do it with watches.
This time do it with watches. It's true.
In America.
In America.
Mate, anywhere that just like loves whiskey, in America, these are my watches. Send it out.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I just need to find a marketing funnel and just kind of direct it and see how I do that in America.
I feel like that would be an amazing YouTube series. Just following you around America, around countries, selling your watches.
Oh yeah, no, I would love that.
You'd make more money on YouTube than you probably would selling your watches. It'd be sweet.
Oh, totally.
I've
always wanted. I have a YouTube channel, and I haven't done much. I've always wanted to do a whole, series on and I think everyone should. If you're creators, I think it's always fascinating. Again, it's weighing down like the time and just do it. And I'm sure if you got a nice rhythm, you knew what you were doing, you had your setup.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be as difficult. But yeah, it's surpassing that part, because there is always that part of you, something blocks you for some reason or another, you know, and then being consistent with that. And I'm sure if you did that formula, it would work. It would work for everybody. I'm sure it would.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wanted to do, I did a few, like, so one of them was, there's a pub, it's the most remote pub in Scotland, or the UK actually. I think it's in Invery. And you can either walk there from, where is it? I think it's Glenfinnan, right? Not Glenfinnan. It is where's the Harry Potter Bridge, right? It's the Harry Potter Bridge.
We should.
I know it because I can see it.
No, what's it?
It's the old viaduct, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, it's Glenfinnan Viaduct.
Yeah. So that's all right. Yeah. So it's so you either walk from there, and you walk 2 days to get to this pub, right?
Oh,
Really?
okay.
Which is really cool. So you either walk there or you get a ferry from Mallaig, right?
I'll get the ferry.
So yeah. So there's those two. There's the two options, because there's no connecting roads. There's a
Right.
road there, but there's
Wow.
nothing that connects to it.
Right.
So yeah, I went with 2 other friends, and the idea was let's walk all the way there and record this whole thing about going to one of the most remote pubs in the UK. And like doing stuff like that is always fun. It's connected somehow.
Little adventure.
It's little adventures. I did that, and another one I did was carrying one of the wall clocks up a Monroe.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, did all that and carried it. So I like these kind of little challenges, little things. It's quite funny, but yeah, doing a lot more of that. But doing more of the process, the story, you know, of just your journey, because it's all content. There's so much content.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So much content.
It's just how you use it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think every good maker would do well either having a best friend or a brother or a sister that was wicked with a camera. Like if you had that, you're sorted, man.
Oh, I
like
know.
someone that was just like say for example, one of my little brothers was just like wicked with the camera, and I was in your position. I was a maker here doing the actual hands-on side of it, and he was just like, yeah, I'm just going to build my own video business, and I'm going to use you as my my portfolio piece. Like from a content point of view, because let's be honest, that's all we consume these days.
Yeah.
Like, I chuck on Netflix and I'm like struggling to find something decent to watch because there's so much good short form content on YouTube right in front of me.
I know you could be sitting watching a film and be like, oh no, this content's much better.
Yeah,
Like
I'll
you
find
do.
something else to watch, and it can be all sorts of people, and you're just you're buying into them, which I think is something that's you can't. Maybe you can, but I think a lot of documentary makers miss the mark. You know, the short form content that you've videoed, edited, put out there is like 100% you. Everything seems to be dramatized a little bit that's on Netflix or elsewhere. So
No, 100%. Like, you know, like all the stories I've spoke about, like if I captured all that, like the things.
oh man, yeah, wicked.
Man, I know, right? Like the days where I'm just curled up my air mattress where it's deflating.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm like, you know, like these things.
In the life of.
Yeah, I know. It's a shame. Like, but then, you know, I guess there's whatever. Like you gotta start at some point, so it's better probably just
Still
start.
got the story to tell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's still so much more. Like this is just the beginning. Like this is nothing of what I feel like I could get to.
Yeah.
It's just touching
That's
nothing.
That's good.
Yeah, I've still got the fire burning. I've still got so much energy to just get this and just, you know, that like when you've created something, you just want to tell everybody. You want to show it to everybody.
Yeah.
You want everyone to see it. You know. Yeah, so I think it's so much exciting stuff to come. I've got loads of great collaborations coming up and things working on right now as well. And as I say, just learning more about machines. You know, I want to get into wax casting. I think that'll be fucking awesome.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think
I really look forward to seeing more of that.
Yeah.
So we've been over 2 hours now. Kate, you've usually got a wicked closing question.
Yeah, what advice would you give your younger self?
Yeah. I've seen the podcast. I know this was coming, and I still didn't even prepare.
I love it.
Yeah.
I just love the answers to the questions. You know?
I still think Ross's who finished in the clothing answer was
Oh yeah.
brace yourself. For me, that is like, yep, nailed it.
Yeah, younger self. It's hard. I'm trying to think. How much younger here? Where we
You
going back
choose.
to? I choose. Damn. Cause it's weird. It's like it's also like that question of like is there something? It's because for me when I hear that, it's like, is there something that you regret or you didn't do, or you know, like, you know, for me,
yeah.
and it's so hard to say because at the same time I know there's things that I did wrong, or there's things that I've made mistakes, or things I could have done a lot better, 100%. But at the same time, I'm like, that I was meant to go through that.
Yeah.
You know,
They're why you're here.
This is why I'm here. you know, because if I didn't, then, you know, I would think that, yeah, I would struggle with a lot of things. Like, it would be difficult. Oh man, I wish I could have like a straightforward answer for
I
that.
don't think there is. Sometimes isn't a
Yeah.
straightforward answer. It's
Because
everything that you've.
I think, yeah, so it would be probably more with connections with people, with humans, because like even with if I think about it with my dad, you know, like that's one thing. 100% I know that I would have wanted to spend a lot more time with him.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we get caught up in our own lives a lot of times, and we forget sometimes what's really the most important thing, you know, and that's people around us. You know, it's our friends, it's our family, and I know the amount of strain that I put on myself doing this, and the amount of times that I neglect, I guess, the other aspect of what's important in life, and that's other people. You know, and it's sometimes I'm like in my head, I'm like, oh, this is just what I have to go through. You know, I have to sacrifice that. You know, but it shouldn't have to be that way. And you know, because if someone passes away, you know, then you know, you always have that part of you. It's like, oh, yeah, I should have been there for them a lot more.
Yeah.
You know, I should have just, you know, been there to just, I guess, because more moments for me, like when my dad passed away, like I realized how important moments are. These moments are what make up our life. The more incredible, amazing moments that you have, the more fulfilling your life is. You know, the moments that you can remember with the people that you love and stuff like that, like things that you can never go back, because we can't go back in time. Right? And of course, you don't want to live a life where you go and look back and be like, I regret that. Yeah. You know, so spend as much like precious, incredible moments you can with the people around you when you can, and if you can, of course. And every moment that you have, just, it's so easy to take it for granted, I guess, you know. And this has come back to time, you know. We're so limited time, man. I feel like I was in my early 20s not that long ago. I'm like, damn, man, I'm going close to my mid 30s, and you know, I know for a lot of people maybe that's still even young, but still, like in my head, I'm like, time goes by really quickly, so fill it with as much as you can. You know, do as much as you can, because it's so easy to be lazy and wasteful. You know, just do things that are meaningful, and do it with people that you love and care about. So yeah, that's
was a good
probably
one. That was a
what I
good
would share.
Deep,
Sorry,
deep,
went real
good.
deep in there.
It was good. It was good. Finished on a good
I'll
note.
borrow back out. Right?
But I think we'll wrap it up at that, eh?
Yeah.
That was brilliant. I'm
Cool, man.
so glad you're available this weekend. As Kate obviously says, we had like a last minute cancellation. Kate had stumbled across your Instagram and was like,
Was that to you then?
I did see your stuff. Because I think like a few months back, I did kind of see it with some other people that I follow and stuff like that. It did pop up with some people that was within your magazine, and I was like, oh, they seem really cool. Like, that seems like a cool idea. You know, I've always been wanting to find more people like that that can connect all this, because it can be a lonely place.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like, you know, even if you're doing it with someone else or doing it by yourself, you know, it can be very lonely, you know, trying to think of like people that understand what you go through, you know, because I've got like a lot of close friends, and sometimes it would be nice to know like for them to understand what you go through, but it's hard for people unless they're like going through that all in your shoes.
Absolutely.
You know? And so having a community of people that you can connect with and communicate with, I think is a fantastic thing. So I think you guys are doing such an amazing job.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you very much.
So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, I guess it's just like website.
Instagram. I've got my Instagram, I've got Facebook, I've got TikTok. But again, these are like all the newer things I've still to get myself into, really. So Instagram's the kind of main thing if you want to see more of the kind of big picture-based stuff, and then obviously YouTube if you want to see some of the things that I did with the climbing and stuff. So
Yeah, we'll link this to your
it all
YouTube.
in, and it'll all be in the description. So
cool.
Perfect.
Brilliant,
Thank
mate.
you.
Thank you
No
so
worries.
much. Appreciate your
Thanks,
time.
Cheers.